So I've written a book about this amazing woman, and like it's so amazing, And now you're just
So
like,
together.
and now you're like, oh my god, like, yay,
I was
2026,
like,
whatever.
I was up all night last night with my kids after drinking all day.
See, that I think is like, you know what? People say that, feminists don't want to go back, but you are going back with that.
Right, with the 1950s. Yeah, like day drinking and then they
Mama's got to have her medicine to deal with this crushing reality.
well, I did, but my friend has a lovely New Year's Day party. And it's like
Okay.
4 to 8, so it's like just enough time to drink yourself silly, and forget about the hangover from last night, and then completely not be able to function for, dinner time and bedtime. So it was like the worst of all possible worlds, but also the best of all possible.
I don't know what happened to me.
Mm.
But like 2 months ago, I just suddenly lost the urge completely for whiskey, like period. And it was just I hit this place where I was like, no, I'm good. I don't want it.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know why. It's like I've got like the Hibiki, I've got all the good stuff over there, and I'm just like, nah, I'm good.
Huh.
I don't know what it is, like, bad food. Oh yeah, I'm still,
Still for it. Good
oh
whiskey?
yeah.
Oh.
But whiskey,
Uh,
just liquor in general, I'm just like, no.
yeah, I don't drink a lot of liquor anymore either. Like, I'll occasionally have a martini, but mostly it's wine. Yeah, for sure. I'm 42. When I was like, uh, actually, when after I had my first kid, I was like, I
Right?
can't drink liquor anymore. This is not happening for my body. That was really the kind of tipping point. I did have a martini on New Year's Eve though, and then I was ruined. But in a good way. I had a fun time.
We had like a Christmas dinner with friends, and that yeah, my sister did the wine thing, and it's just, and she drank like and she was drinking and baking, right?
Sure.
Like drinking. And I was like, "Do you want any help?" She's like, "No, I want to do this." I was like, "Okay." I was like, and then I'm the asshole brother. I'm like, starting a little early, right? And she's just, it's Christmas, leave me alone. I was like, okay. I said, but I know how you are. You need to pace yourself. So by the time dinner got here, it's like, I made this amazing spread for all of you, and it's great.
Oh my god, that's so funny and so relatable. Oh,
Yeah.
see my little boy turns different, but there's a little present back here. My oldest one turns 6 tomorrow.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. How are you handling that?
No, not well.
Okay. Yeah.
No,
There you
it's
go.
fine. It's, you know, but it's a different stage. Like when until they're 5, they're little kids. Now he's turning into, a little boy and his own self, and it's totally a different.
He's getting what, credit card offers in the mail, and like,
Absolutely.
and
Offers from colleges too, just
people
hard.
calling him up saying, "We'll buy your house." I'm like, "I don't own a house." Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
what you're calling me.
Well, his stock portfolio is going very well, actually. So he's in the market, but
Well, if he's a billionaire, he did okay in 2025. They
well,
made
he's not, but we're hoping.
I mean, what was it they said, and it was in The Guardian, billionaires made, or like, people in the stock market, especially the high end, $2.2 trillion dollars
Yeah.
in 2025, and 7 billionaires made a quarter of that.
And so on the other end of that, I was at this, New Year's Day party yesterday, and I was speaking to this young man. He had just graduated from Columbia. He speaks 4 languages. He graduated with like a 4.0. He's
Yeah.
incredibly intelligent. He's taking the LSATs, hardworking. He has sent out, he told me, 600 job applications
Jesus.
and not one callback, not even a callback, not even an interview. I mean, he's going to an Ivy League. He's had, internship experience. He worked at Tesla for 2 years, I guess. It was like a summer job, but he cannot find any employment whatsoever. And it's like, what at what point, right, are people going to just absolutely rebel? Like, all these young people
Yeah.
are going to be in the streets. I mean, we already are seeing that with No Kings, but once, right, like the economy hits the skids for real, which it already is for a lot of people, it's going to be a wild ride. It's going to be wild to see what the demands are, especially now with Mom Donnie. I'm very interested to see sort of the you know, possibilities and opportunities for imagination that his administration will open up to other people in this country. We'll see.
I think what's interesting with Mom Donnie, and we're kind of seeing the playbook, which in some with the Somali daycare centers and that whole thing, is this, like, it's not about this notion of, oh, they're going to try collectivism in New York and it's going to fail. We're just going to step back and watch the train wreck. It's they actively put their thumbs on the scale or their fists and lie.
And lie. Yeah.
Like, and but the thing is, what's interesting about the Nick Shirley thing and um what's going on and trying to smear Tim Walz, unlike, because it's absolutely, for those who are familiar with James O'Keefe and Project Veritas, and with Acorn, when they first came out, and they slandered Acorn. It was this when it was James O'Keefe in this very racist trope, who got like a woman with him and he dressed up like a pimp and she was a sex worker, and then they went in and said, yeah, I need money for my X, Y, and Z. And then, of course, 6 months later, it's like, oh yeah, all this is false. They're not
Yeah, it's
getting
just completely fabricated. Like the
fine.
best performance
But
art.
by then their funding was cut and the damage was done, and so, but I don't see that this is working this time,
Yeah.
because we've been through this before, and it's there's absolutely zero proof. I mean, like, somebody went on Fox and Friends last night and just shredded this
Mhm.
completely. And so I think the shenanigans they're going to try, and they will try them in New York,
Yeah.
will absolutely backfire, right?
I hope so.
At least I'm hopeful it will, right?
Well, and like I just think so I was talking to somebody else and about Mom Danny, and they're like, "Oh, it's free grocery stores. He's never going to do that." And he says to me, he goes, why would you put where is he gonna put it, in the CVS in Astor Place? And for those of you who know New York, Astor Place is sort of where NYU is. It's in the East Village. It's very posh. I'm like, why would he want to put a free grocery store in Astor Place? They don't need a free grocery store. They have a Whole Foods and a Trader Joe's. We're talking about, let's put a free grocery store in the random ass Bed Bath and Beyond on 167th and Lenox. Like, that's where we need a free grocery store in and food deserts. So even I think the ways that they're trying to make his um policies seem silly are completely inane. This is not actually a real criticism. And people are like, oh, he's not going to get anything through. And okay, yeah, there's a lot of city bureaucracy, to be sure, but let's also be real. Okay, let's look at New York City City Council. New York City just implemented ranked choice voting recently. What happened? A majority female city council elected for the first time. And I have, looked into a lot of those women, and they are not, you know, uh, stick in the mud city bureaucrats. They are women who want to get things done. And these are the people that Mom Donna gets to work with. I actually think they have an amazing chance of success on numerous levels and policies and projects.
Well, and this is the thing that's kind of fascinating with this, and we're starting to see this. We haven't quite gotten over this disconnect, and it's that government can step in where
Hmm.
the free market is either unwilling or can't, because they're, at this point, such parasitic capitalists. They literally can't create anything without just ripping it off, right? And so the thing is, with, like, to your point, what Mamdani's doing is he's stepping in where for decades they've tried to get the free market or private interests to come in, and they couldn't do it. They said it's not profitable. So Target, Walmart, all that couldn't make it in New York.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's like, okay, well, we'll have the city step in and create these city-run grocery stores, which is like 6, right?
Right.
It's not a huge amount. It's not like we're it's yeah, that's what I love is always the cute where it's like, "They're communists, they're far leftists." It's like, "No, far leftists would be, okay, we're nationalizing all the grocery stores in New York City, and then the next goal is the state."
Right.
Right? That's the
Right.
far left. We don't have a far left in this country. Literally what we have in our leftist spaces in
Super left.
Europe is center right conservatives, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, we're just going to have a little option that's the government, and then the private sector has all this.
Right.
But what's so an interesting thing, a similar thing is happening in southeastern Colorado, right? You guys might have saw where Lauren Boebert got rebuffed on this clean water like bill that passed the House and passed the Senate. And Trump basically vetoed it. He didn't say why, but basically we think it's because of Tina Peters and Polis hasn't pardoned her for the state crimes, and let her out of jail. And for those of you who aren't familiar with that, that was Lauren Boebert's old district. And she basically tried to put her thumb on the scale for Trump in 2020, got caught, and was prosecuted and sentenced to prison. And so it's a state crime. And, Trump's famously pardoned her, but that really doesn't matter because it's a state crime and he can
Right.
only pardon federal crimes, right? So what's happening in southeastern Colorado is the drinking water there, which a lot of it's well water and for growing crops, has been kind of polluted, right? And mostly that's from agribusiness runoff, right? So you got nitrates, you got all this stuff in the water. And so they wanted to have this, like clean water project where they pump in clean water. It was supposed to be like take 5 years, stuff that Biden would do, or stuff that, you had these make work like these projects that, the government can do because the private sector can't or won't. And Trump vetoed it, and this is in Lauren Boebert's district. And what was telling was these small towns who overwhelmingly went for Boebert and for Trump said, we need this. We
Mm.
can't survive without government help.
Hmm. Hmm.
Just
Interesting.
like Pueblo, who got from the Pueblo, Colorado, who got a boost from the Infrastructure Act. And it
Right.
was one of the plants Biden actually toured because if you drive through Pueblo, there is a lot of these old rundown factories and they got a grant to produce green energy. And who pulled their grant?
Yeah.
Trump,
But
because it was the Biden initiative.
and I'm so curious because, right, I think this relates to the states' rights debate that Republicans have always wanted to have.
Right.
And, you know, the reason I'm realizing that they wanted states' rights was because they wanted to have their own misogynistic, xenophobic, racist little fiefdoms where they could implement their neo Jim Crow laws and not have
Mhm.
the federal government, um, step in to prevent that. And that's really, I believe, sort of the whole impetus behind their states' rights argument. Now we're seeing, right, that Trump is a president and he's implementing that far right agenda on a national level. And the Republicans have entirely abandoned their states' rights platform when, let's say, California, Maine, New York, and others are creating state agencies, policies, and programs to protect its citizens against overreach of federal government, how the tables have turned. But and so it's so curious to me, right, that um, at this time when in Pueblo and other similar communities are having to realize that they actually do rely on the federal government and that states' rights, when it is only for the service of exploiting its workers and oppressing its people, are not actually great policies or a great place to stand. I don't really have um, a lot of y- I'm always interested to see how paradigm shifts, how paradigms and thinking shift.
Yep.
I I don't think that this issue will have a deep and lasting effect on the way people understand the role of government, sadly. I don't know what would. There's just so much cognitive dissonance that it's impossible for me to even comprehend. Um, but, I'll be curious, Lone Bobart only won her seat last time by what, 147 votes or something.
No, that was the previous one. Like she did well in the district she came into.
Oh, fuck.
The yeah, yeah. The one in the West,
Uh-huh.
right? Like, yeah, she barely won that. That was in the 2020
Yeah. And
the
then
2022 election. And then in this one, she cleaned up because unfortunately, like in the main voting in Douglas County where I live, you've still got a lot of these sort of they're the worst kind of hypocrites because it's like they'll get vaccinated, but then they want to say, but we're not going to do vaccination mandates like Denver does, you know, or they'll want all the infrastructure and social programs and they want cheaper water. They want to have their grass, like to water their grass and all the HOAs, but they'll suddenly, well, no one else should have that and blah, blah, blah. So you've
yeah,
got all these like upper middle class people that want all the benefits of living in a society that has infrastructure, but they don't want anyone else to have it. And that I think is, and this is where I kind of depart from the salt of the earth, the poor, the downtrodden who've been, propagandized is no, they absolutely know where the money's coming from. They know it's government programs. They sign up for them. They know how to navigate these databases and how to get it. They just don't want anyone else to have it. They
yeah,
wanna have their bigotry, they wanna have their hatred, they wanna have these things, but then they think, "Well, our guy's in." And where the stupid comes in is like, "We're gonna get it, but those pesky libs aren't." And
right.
even further to your point, because you hit it on the head with this exploitation and these fiefdoms, the problem now is you've lived under this New Deal umbrella where we
Mhm.
created this infrastructure and all of these things to connect us in rural communities that would not have their way of life that they have now. You know what?
They wouldn't have internet and they wouldn't have had electricity
No,
till like the 19.
God, no. They wouldn't have a post
Mhm.
office if it wasn't in the Constitution. It's not economically feasible.
Right.
to- And it's funny because I used to talk to my grandmother who lived through the Great Depression, and I asked her about it. I said, "Well, what was it like living?" She's from Mississippi on my dad's side. My dad's family was rural and poor until basically the 50s and 60s kicked in, right?
Yeah.
And my mother's side of the family was more affluent, a little like more middle upper class.
Mm.
And I asked her, I was like, "What was it like, Granny, living through the depression?" She said, "Oh, honey, we didn't know there was a depression going on. Nothing really changed, you
Mm.
know." And that's it in a nutshell. Is like California has now surpassed Japan as the fourth largest economy in the world. If you really want to go this states' rights way, I guarantee you, red states, you are going to hate it.
Hate it.
You are going like if California and Oregon and Washington decided to say, "Yeah, we're just going to form an economic collective." Okay, like how many other neighboring states would scramble over there? Or they'd say, "You know
Like,
what, Idaho, Idaho, we're good.
yeah.
You stay over there. We're not supporting you."
Yeah.
Or you look at the Northeast when they were talking about and they kinda took that step with the CDC thing, what they were gonna have, like, we're gonna have our own kind of we're leaving the CDC, we're gonna have our own kind of, like, vaccination protocols, we're gonna have like, that's the first step.
That is the first step. And as a Californian, I am, you know, very very excited that these steps are being taken. And actually, my state representative, Monique Lemon, was just elected. Well, she was the president of the Senate. She's doing amazing work. Gavin Newsom, I mean, she's just doing this work, grinding out.
Mhm.
Um, can you still hear me? It says my internet's unstable. I don't know why.
It happens.
Okay.
It's
Anyway,
it's Substack. I can hear you
finding
though.
out the boring ass policies of how are we going to run a state when our federal government is failing us. And while Gavin Newsom, and I know people have different opinions about Gavin Newsom, I do think he's doing a great job. And it's Monique Lemon who's hammering out those policies and programs that make a difference in people's lives, not only for Californians, right? But I talked with her on the Female Body Politic a while ago, right? And these policies that she is implementing and getting through are basically are other states are able to replicate them, right? So, California is becoming this incredible lab of democracy, uh, on a really granular level that I don't think is people are paying enough attention to. And we want to talk about where's light, where's hope, where can we look to for power, places of power. It's like the California state legislature is doing great things. And like you said, they just had that, they have this medical alliance with Oregon and Washington. Okay, let's look at measles in South Carolina and we can talk about why that's so important. I mean, it's terrifying and horrifying. Side note, my great great aunt was known as a second Helen Keller because Helen Keller, for those of you who don't know, was born blind and deaf. My great great aunt was rendered blind and deaf from measles before the vaccine. And also learned to speak sign language and read braille and communicate with people and was a great advocate for that community. But right, we are reintroducing this terrible disease that can not only not only kill but uh, affect people for their entire lives. And the other
Yep.
thing, and then I'll get off measles. But there's this new data that's coming out, and they were looking at why is it that mortality went down, not just from measles, but from all diseases after the measles vaccine. It's because they discovered that measles attacks your immune system. I'm not a doctor, but from my understanding, measles attacks your larger immune system and debilitates it permanently, so that not able to fight off other diseases, so that you're more susceptible to other diseases that you could later then, die from, whether that's cancer or pneumonia or smallpox, which we're also seeing, or COVID or anything else. So it's just absolute madness. But to your point about an economic alliance, I mean, I want to be a collectivist, right? But I'm
Yeah.
also at a point where it's like, we have problems. We have wildfires, we have floods, we have an unhoused population problem, we have immigrant problems, and all of these problems could be solved if we could keep all of our tax dollars here in California and not send them to states that actively are trying to undermine the Constitution and basically oppress me and my children. Like that, those aren't states I want to support, frankly. And so and one final note, um, on another happy or hopeful item is, and there's this movement of the public banks. And so basically it's a publicly owned bank that, instead of right now cities and states put their money in private banks, so private banks are profiting from our tax dollars, but in this case cities and the state could put our money in a public bank, which we could then earn interest on and reinvest that interest into public works. And again, that's happening specifically in Los Angeles, Sacramento, and I believe San Diego. And if we can implement that
Yeah.
across those cities, that is a game changer for us, not only in terms of fighting MAGA fascism, but fighting this, oligarchy that just profits off of us writ large.
It's fascinating because in I think, like a decade, the perception, and they've done, like, they've gone back and done the polls, and surveys, is I mean, it was a massive swing of how people view billionaires, right?
Mm.
Because 10 years ago, the billionaires were, I mean, again, where their wealth was like 1 or 2 billion. It's like, oh, they're savvy, or they're
We're so
you know,
slow.
the Oracle of Omaha, and he's just, oh, and like, he still lives in the same house. He's just really good at the stock market. He's really smart. And now we're at this place where they're actively basically cutting things from us
Mhm.
that help us live,
Right.
right? And even now with AI, it's like it's interesting because the question that keeps being asked in the corporate-owned media is, well, soon will they need workers? Will they need other people? And billionaires will just be on their own. It's like, no, man, I think that's the wrong question. I think the question is, do we need them?
Yeah.
And
It
because there's way more of us
right.
than there are of them, and it's at a certain point, I think what's I find fascinating and what's breaking is this sort of religious, almost religious mania of the free market,
Yeah.
right? Where it's like we're getting to a place where it's, hey, to your point about the public banks and everything else, like, why haven't we done that?
Right. It's like
It's our
it's just
like, because you're like, wait a minute, they're making private money, like they're making a profit and not paying taxes on it off of our tax
our
dollars.
our task.
And the thing is, when you find out, like, oh, that's primarily the reason Elon Musk is rich is
Mhm.
because of government contracts.
Yeah.
It's not because he was savvy and really smart. It's no, he was born into wealth and then he somehow got all these government contracts. And it's, wait a minute. So all these billionaires really are rich because of us and our tax money.
Well,
And yet they want to keep taking, they want to push in politicians that take more and more from us.
yeah, and it's like, it's on a very basic level, not even government contracts. Somebody posted yesterday, how about we implement a law that says if any of your employees are on public assistance, you have to pay a higher tax bracket, because it's like we are funding the Walmart family fortune because all of their employees on welfare, which we
Right. Which is purposeful. They do it on purpose.
and so it's just and what I don't understand, and then I wanna talk about James Tallarico, I think is how you say his name, that guy running
Okay.
it. What I don't understand is how I mean, I know we don't wanna say, "Oh, these poor people have been, propagandized and so on and so forth," but if you
I
go
mean, you can if you want. Like, that's fine.
some have, some haven't, but if you go to Walmart, right, and these greeters and these people who are doing the checkout and their jobs are I would say probably not fulfilling and they work really hard and they're in poverty. And
Yeah.
not um that is not morally acceptable in the United States of America in the year of 2026. And then how is it that these people, right, with during the Great Depression, were so the same people, right, were so galvanized by this idea that government can be a place where people come together and that government can help people and should help people and that the wealthy should pay their fair share, right? Like this was the attitude, the rhetoric, and the political understanding of many of these populations during the Great Depression. How do we go from there to I hate immigrants, therefore I will basically be a serf for billionaires because I hate immigrants so much. And where can we find a rhetoric that can actually reach them? And I'm really curious about James Tallarico. I love Jasmine Crockett, of course, but I think he's doing a really great service. And if you don't know him, he is a son of a no, he is a preacher. He is
Yeah.
a, and I believe the Southern Baptist Church. He's a son of a single mother who worked at a grocery store, I believe, and he is really using this rhetoric of Christian religion
Yeah.
to talk about why billionaires are immoral and incompatible with American democracy. And I do think he is reaching those populations just because he's using that language that they understand. I don't know if you have any opinions on what he's doing or if it's breaking through.
I think so. I mean, so like for me, I want to distinguish between like there's people who voted for Trump and then there's MAGA, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so MAGA is about 15 to 20% of the population that they're to me are unreachable, right?
Right.
You might have some examples that are going to come through and they're gonna break away, like you but I think those are the exceptions, right? You always have the one and we uphold these exceptions, like, I was in the KKK, and then I met a black preacher, and then now I'm not I'm, anti-racist, or I was a skinhead, and now I'm anti-racist. It's like and those are look, man, that's laudable people.
Right.
But the vast majority of them are not coming back.
Right.
Like and the thing is, it's not even coming back, that's a wrong way to say it, is like, they were always this way.
Mhm.
Because I was talking to my sister about this just the other day, and I said, "It we had this misnomer, like, once the Civil Rights Act happened in 1965 and they got rid of segregation federally, it was like, well, we were racist, but we're not now because the government said." It's like, no, what happened was, socially, it became horrible to just publicly be racist.
Right.
But as someone who's worked with white folks and lived in the South, I can't tell you the number of times when someone looked at me and thought I was one of them, and here come the black jokes, here come the racist, here comes the sexism, here comes all that. These people have always been with us, right? But whether people voted for Trump, that's a whole different matter. And there is this notion of between the city and rural, and this divide that's been stoked by that part is the propagandized, right?
Yeah.
All these city people, they're just blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, when you get down to it, you find out poor folks in the city struggle just like poor folks in rural areas. They have
Yeah.
the same problems.
Yeah.
They just come in different forms, right? They're worried about providing for their family. They're worried about where the next meal is going to come from. They're hoping they don't have a catastrophe or a sickness or or this or that, and I think what's happened is we've reached this point where, and I say this all the time. It's like, we can have a fair and just society, or we can have billionaires.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they have pushed the moment to its crisis. It's not you were like, "Oh, fuck billionaires, fuck billionaires, fuck billionaires," oh, sorry, I shouldn't have sworn, but,
Okay,
we weren't the ones waging a class war, really.
right?
I mean, maybe we should have been, but they are the ones that waged a class war, and that again, like James Talrico talks about that. He says, "The wealthy are insatiable. Nothing is enough for them. Nothing."
Nothing.
You know what would be
That,
enough? Is having, first of all, continuing to have the right to vote, having healthcare, having safe schools, not get having my worry about my children being shot, having healthcare and having clean, safe water to drink and air to breathe. Like these are the things, and a house over my head. Like these are the things that would satisfy me.
well, yeah, it's like most people in the audience. Like, if you said, "Hey, what's your ideal sort of life?"
Mhm.
And really what it would be is, like, you would upscale a little bit, right? You're like, well, I'm in an apartment. I'd like to have a 4 or 5 bedroom house, or maybe even 6 or 7, and I'd like to have a couple cars, and I'd like to have this and that. And I'd like to have enough money in the bank, and yada, yada, yada. The mindset of someone who is a billionaire, because you really there's only like, there are exceptions who get there, like Taylor Swift or say LeBron James, or who've gotten there because of just their once in a 2 generations talent,
Right.
right? But a billionaire's mentality is like, I want your house, and I want my house, and I want the neighbor's house. Matter of fact, I want the whole block, and then I'm gonna tear it down, and then I'm gonna do, and it's you just take, and it's like, and to Tellerico's point, it's insatiable. It never stops. It's never enough. It never ends. Like, it's you can't even you couldn't even lay out the money, like, with what Elon Musk is reportedly worth. If you backed up a Brinks truck and printed it out, you couldn't lay it out on a football field. There's too much. And being taxed
Football
high
field,
10%.
the
Yeah,
football field, football stadium. I mean,
right.
huh,
You
huh,
you'd have to use all the NFL teams and college teams and lay it out. You literally couldn't put your eyes on it. It would stretch too far. If you put stacks down, you couldn't put your eyes on it. And again, for these people, just like Trump, it's not enough,
yeah,
right? It wasn't enough for Trump to get elected and say, man, whoo, I beat them cases, boy. I
And
tell you what, I'm going to play golf. Y'all just continue what works. I'm out. That's all he
well,
had to do, but he couldn't do it.
but I don't think he's pulling the strings this time. I don't think he I
No,
don't know.
no.
I think if he could go play golf, he would go play golf. I think he is in so deep to so many different interests that he is
Oh yeah.
just going what he is told. And I wanna say, I liked Biden and I liked Merrick Garland, but I do think that the criticism that they didn't go after him as aggressively as they could have earlier on is absolutely valid.
Mhm.
Smith should have been hired on January 21, 2020, and been tasked to absolutely be a laser beam in that criminal enterprise and pull it apart. The fact that this went on and on and on and on, and it took so long to put the wheels in motion is inexcusable. Uh, Hope that the next administration, God willing, we have one, doesn't make that same mistake and goes after them
I
aggressive armed
I
deck.
think I think we've reached a place in our culture, in our society where I look at Biden as he was sort of the last, hey, let's put the institutions back together,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Let's all kind of forget about Trump and we're going to move forward. Everything's okay. That was just
Flip.
a little, yeah, it was a hiccup. And they tried to do things by the old way because that's what they knew,
Yeah,
right? I mean, Biden for better and worse is that he knew the levers of power. He knew how to move things in the federal government, but that's what he knew.
mm,
And we're now at a place where we're like, okay, what does the next iterate like Heather Cox Richardson had a really good point about this is like where she said she was torn in her 2025 wrap up where it's like the post World War II, the Marshall Plan, that world has now come to an end.
mm,
What follows after it? And that's where we're at is you don't I agree with her. I think we are at a place where you can't put the genie back in the bottle.
yeah,
You know, like the democracy that we're going to need moving forward has to be different, right? It has to be so like we can't be afraid of the word socialism or collectivism. And what does that mean? Like maybe it's public banks, and public health care or universal health care. Right. Terrifying. Like, oh, we're gonna have to, you know, we're gonna have we're gonna have to hold these people accountable in some way, some fashion. Right.
yeah,
And, like, is it going to be um, we're gonna seize wealth from billionaires and, nationalize it? Maybe not, but it could be just, you know what, we're
well,
gonna have a robust
tax
SC.
just actually tax them, and, like,
Yeah.
the reason, and someone in the comments can correct me, but, like, the reasons that we don't tax them is because they don't have income, they have assets, and you
Yep.
can't tax assets. Well, guess what you can do is rewrite the tax code, people.
There you
Rewrite
go.
the tax code, okay, so that it fits the actual economy and society that we're living in, because these people are just exploiting ignorance and apathy and inertia, and we have to end that, okay? We need to adapt. And in regard to, moving forward and what kind of democracy we need, I absolutely agree with you. Every time I open my mouth, I talk about ranked choice voting
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
abolishing the electoral college. We need to get rid of this. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. Like, it is 100% the last vestige of Jim Crow, not the last vestige, another example
Yeah.
of Jim Crow laws still exist. And it is I if I were a Black person in a southern state and you told me that I had to go to the polls, but that also my vote would 100% not count, in the presidential election because the white majority would cancel it out, I would be insulted. I would be 100% insulted. And there is no way that I would go to the polls because it is insulting to ask me to do so, especially now when my life is at risk from
Right.
these maggots who are threatening to, overturn the election with guns and literal bombs. So we actually have to move forward with our democracy. And if we do have the blowouts and the midterms that I'm hoping we're going to have, you know, we need to put in legislation to abolish the electoral college, or at least have these regional, agreements. And we need to have DC statehood immediately and Puerto Rican statehood immediately. Enough is enough. These people want to be in the United States. They deserve to be in the United States. And the only reason that they're not is because the white male minority who is desperately clinging on to a power that they do not deserve. So, I mean, I would say this year, I mean, and I wrote this in
Mm.
a post, it's like everybody's saying, oh, go slow. We have to, talk to the middle. No,
No,
we
no.
cannot temper our demands or our expectations.
We've tried slow. We
Yeah,
tried it.
yeah,
We've tried waiting for everyone to be ready, and that's not how anything ever gets done.
that's correct. Yeah,
It's not how civil rights gets done. It's not how women's rights gets done. It's not how any of this got done.
yeah,
It's not how you make change, because if you wait for the people that are in privilege and sitting on the fence, and they're going to sit there, right? Because, oh, well, it might not be as good for me, you know. I mean, as a middle-aged white man in Gen X, my ego is very fragile, right? It's like, even you mentioning that, I got heart palpitations. Like, oh my god, independent women. Oh no, I tell you, like, man, that is the thing I hate the most
mm,
in what has happened in this moment, is what men, these just weak pieces of garbage, have done
mm,
to my side of the aisle, where it's like, all of you are just worthless now. You like this victim, like, was like, well, with JD Vance, like, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore. It's like, brother, go away. You
sure,
know, you can go with all the photo ops with the Navy SEALs. No one is going to think you're masculine. No one. Period. I promise you.
just so manly though.
Oh, it's like, yeah, it's like, oh, you're still. It's like, it's funny because I'm doing the online dating stuff now.
Mm,
And I was talking to a woman, and she's like, "Oh my god, you cook and write." It's like, I've been single for like a decade. If I didn't know how to cook or do my laundry, oh my god, like, but it's sad because there's just it's this conditioned helplessness, you
yeah,
know. And I referenced you because we had on one of our lives where it was like, you get these men that literally want their moms,
yeah,
they want the domestic labor because they don't want to learn how to do it. And I'm like, dude, just get a skillet, and like, you can cook like most of the things you're going to eat.
right,
That's
right,
it.
yeah,
Skillet, spatula, and a wooden spoon. You're good to go.
good to go.
Right. That's it. You
Most of world cuisine right there.
that's it. Skillet, spatula, that wooden spoon. You want to get like a spoon, and you want to get a flat end. You're fine. That's the four items you need. Just some spices, and you are fine.
Yeah,
You know, it's like, you don't need to get all this fancy doodads and everything else. I mean, it's like, or and like, my God, they have washing machines.
yeah,
Like, they have tutorials on YouTube how to fold a fitted sheet. You'll be fine.
you'll be fine. Oh, I learned how to fold a suit, for travel, actually,
Oh
speak
yeah?
from this guy who, Suit Cafe for anyone who's interested, and this guy, either was in the mob or would have been in the mob if he could have been, but, like, teaches people how to fold their suits, and I'm sure he's making, hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me as a boy mom, to see that we raised a generation of girls who were told not to, uh, rel who were told they could do whatever they wanted, be whatever they wanted, that they didn't have to be a domestic servant to have meaning in their life. And I'm not blaming parents, and I'm not saying anyone's done anything wrong, but it is also the fact that we didn't simultaneously raise boys uh, in the same way that you don't have to rely you can't rely on free domestic labor. You have to be your own individual person. You have to be able to cook and clean and fold your shirts and organize your calendar and change a diaper if you want to have that kind of life. And in raising my own kids and raising my own boys, I'm very conscientious about teaching them how to set the table, how to cook, how to, care for themselves. That if they spill something, they have to clean it up. That I'm not the maid, I'm not the cook. And my husband is very much on board with this as well. And even also modulating the way that they speak to me and the other women in our lives, making sure that it's done with respect and that if, because all kids like, say,
Yeah.
crazy things,
Yeah.
uh, or get angry, but just saying that we don't speak in that tone of voice. And I agree that this particular generation of white men have done a great disservice to themselves and others like them, um, because there's so many bad actors that paint a broad brush on so many that don't deserve it. But I am hopeful for the next generation, like particularly Gen. I know I'm curious, like all the Gen Z, everybody's like, oh, Gen Z sucks. And I'm like, all the Gen Z people I've met are fucking awesome.
Yeah, they seem okay to me. I mean, they just seem like youth, like, and I mean, what it's funny how you're raising your boys is how I was raised. I
Yeah,
mean, I had to set the table. I had to, you know, uh, wash dishes. Um, my dad knew how to cook from his mother. So it's like he taught me some things. My mother taught me some other things. I had to clean the house. I had chores. Like, I was doing laundry and I was doing my own laundry and folding it when I was in middle school.
right.
And I mean it's this notion that I think that, you know, I don't know. I mean, I really don't know what happened with this because again, I was like I didn't have the most attentive parents, but and was dysfunctional in a lot of ways, but it was just I think what surprises me with a lot of white men or just a lot of men in general, period, is they think that stuff should just be handed to them.
Yeah,
And I never came up with that. My dad and my mom made good money, but they never just handed it to me. It's like, I would do farm work or I would do odd jobs or I'd go cut somebody else's lawn for some money. And, if I wanted to get it, I'd have to go get it,
yeah,
And so or if, I don't know, I wasn't taught to, I was like, oh, well, I got a bad grade because the teacher don't like me. It's like, no, you got a bad grade because did you study? Did you do this? Did you do that? It's like, no. Well,
right.
that's why. Yeah. And so I just I see this all these excuses. It's women or it's this or it's that. It's like you never hear it's like, oh man, like the leaders of these right wing or these manosphere movements, they never come out and say, what is it you're not doing?
Or what is it that society is doing that makes it less possible, right? Because it's
Right.
very so my husband works in film, and two things happened at the same time in Hollywood. One was uh, uh, emphasis on DEI hiring. Now, at the same time, Hollywood and like sort of entertainment business in general shifted from network, 30 episodes per season,
Yeah.
full staff writing room, full-time job for a year, healthcare benefits, pension, union. From that to we're going to do miniseries, 8 seasons, 8 episodes per season,
Yep.
cut down writer's room. You have 3 months of work. You're not full time, so you're not union. We're not going to give you health care, but we're going to do these like really auteur, IG shows. But so these things were happening at the same time, and instead of saying actually the structural the structure of the industry has changed to make it impossible for the people who work in it to have a life and a living. Instead of critiquing that, it was like, oh, it's DIY, it's DIY.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah,
No,
no, I went through that, right? And it's I mean, that's why I do this, like, I couldn't afford to in my production company, which we just did a short and, like, how we have to move, I mean, my VA disability pretty much pays my bills, but, like, everything is gig.
everything is
Everything is short term. It's like, "All right, here's this." It's like, "All right, we could do something in Orlando, Florida. All right, we're thinking about going overseas, or we're doing this, we're doing that." It's like because, you know, like Larry Ellison and David Zasloff and all them shut down to your point, shut down writers' rooms, shut down the work, right? Shut down the thing that actually makes it go. And but again, what's replaced it? Short run shit unless it pops,
right.
right? And then it's almost it's interesting because like going back to this Gen Z thing, a lot of Gen Z folks that I've talked to, because eh, they they all it's like, oh, I like '90s music, or I like this, and I never hear them say, I like this, like my generation's music, and I wonder, like, what the hell is their generation's music?
Well, and let me tell you something.
You know?
The Gen Z, the most watched TV shows for Gen Z are Friends, Gilmore Girls, and Seinfeld. That's what they watch.
Yeah, they're all about the '90s culture now,
Well, yeah,
right?
people actually want high production, long term, TV content that they can relate to and have an emotional, experience with, and not constantly have to start over again with these new characters and these high stake roles. Like, it's actually really emotionally taxing to constantly be introduced to new worlds for only a very short period of time. And it's really difficult, I would say, on your nervous system. And I know this is like really kind of niche and like pointless in a lot of ways, but it's not, right? We
It's not though.
for comfort, to relax at the end of the day, not to be constantly stimulated and scared half to death. And then, worried about these characters that we're emotionally invested in. And so, I'm just saying it's like, oh, why is Hollywood? Why is it bankrupt? Why doesn't anybody go to the theaters anymore? Because they're not making things that people want to see. They're making
No,
things that they want to be profitable. Those are two different things. And it's a very interesting at the moment. Like, I really my sort of motto for 2026 is small is the new big. People don't want, the Marvel worlds anymore. They
no.
don't want boxes. They don't want Amazon. They don't want corporate news. They want what's small, local, and relatable, but that is also sustainable. And so when we look at TV and your production company and others, I think we're really going to see, and we are seeing this resurgence of indie because
Yeah.
it's budget. It's easier to make your returns back, right? If you make a movie for $2 million and then you make $10 million at the box office or in streaming and distribution, that's a hit. That's a hit.
But
And
that's funny because that's how Hollywood used to be, right? That's how it was because the bet is okay, we're gonna put out a bunch of like smaller budget, you know, emotionally driven stories out and see what sticks, right? And it wasn't until Jaws and Star Wars that like exploded. And what's funny is you're seeing the same kind of thing in gaming where Fortnite blew up, right?
Mhm.
And so everyone's like, "Oh, we're gonna make the next Fortnite. We got to make the next Fortnite. Everything's got to be multiplayer. Everything's got to be games as a service because the profit return is so much awesome." But everything that they've done with those games, they've all flopped and they've all lost a lot of money. And over, gamers keep telling them, which gamers are not little kids. Like every time you say that, it's like, "Oh yeah, it's little kids." No, 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 no. The average age of a gamer is 31 years old,
Right.
right? And so you what they keep saying is, "No, we want single player story driven RPGs.
Yeah.
We want single player games where it's not online, where we can play a little bit, put it down, come back to it later, and to your point, it's we want good shows that we can get invested in that can, do a run. And that's why millennials love The Office because it ran forever and they can get invested into it and they can watch or Friends or Seinfeld or any of these other shows. Whereas it's funny because I mean, the way the Netflix model and streaming has changed viewing habits is people won't get invested in a show until it's in like its fourth season.
Right.
Because it's like, to your point, why would you want to watch a show? You get invested in one season, it's like it's done.
Yeah, and even if there's a second season, there's only you have to wait like the whole year, for it to come out. I don't know. I just think um, that our current model of capitalism is not based on products; it's based on addiction, and
Yeah.
like companies are constantly trying to addict us to new things. And at some point, your capacity for addiction becomes saturated. And I think we're reaching that point where people don't want to be. I mean, I don't know. I feel this way. I feel like a lot of people feel this way that they don't want to be addicted anymore. And then we're experiencing conversations around freedom, not just in our democracy and our government, but also in our personal lives and the way that we experience, right? Like being a consumer. How can
Mhm.
we have freedom in our marketplace and in our government at the same time? And going back to your earlier point of, it's going to require massive change. Whether or not it's reasonable to think we'll see that, I don't know. But I've just been so this past year, if we want to talk about year and wrap ups, the things that I see in public discourse about taxing billionaires, about change in democracy, about, different forms of government, I feel we have made leaps and bounds that we won't even understand for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Ask you a question and then I have to pop off. But you know, uh, you know me, I'm not really a rage bait person, and I try not to talk about Trump too much. I don't want to fuel hatred, but I had this realization on New Year's Eve that in 2026 and 2028, if we are to get these guys out of power, the vast majority of Americans not only have to dislike him, but viscerally hate all of them. And to a certain degree, I feel that we do need to stoke that hatred. And that's a very delicate balance and that's a dangerous genie to let out of the bottle. But I don't know how else to do it.
I don't think we're gonna have to stoke anything. I think they're gonna do it because they don't know any other way.
Okay.
I mean, it's interesting because I never thought about this, but there's one thing I try to live by, especially with Trump, is and Elon Musk or whoever, don't confuse brazen with brilliance,
Mhm.
right? Because they're brazen and we always try to, for like, oh well, they must be doing it for this, for this, for this. And Heather Cox Richardson again had a really good point where she said, we had this massive No Kings protest, right? So she's looking at this like as a historian. Massive No Kings protest, 7 million, blah, blah, blah. 2 days later, the East Wing is torn down. Was he doing that to punish us? Because again, the East Wing is supposed to be the people's wing,
Mm.
right? It's where, and now again, it could be multiple factors, and who knows really why he did what he did. But that's where the first lady stays, who Melania doesn't like to be at the White House. And so there's added fuel to the fire. And plus, it's a distraction to get it off the No Kings protest. So there's multiple layers to this. But I honestly think that, with the economic things that might be coming, that most likely are, with the overreach, because again, just like with billionaires, these people are extremists. It's not like, well, ICE agents, we've gotten enough. We've done enough.
Yeah.
Oh, well, like maybe the anti-abortion stuff's a little too strong. Let's give women some rights back. You're not going to see any of that.
Oh, they're
You
like,
know,
your voting rights, ladies.
yeah, they're like, it's like, what? You want to vote? Well, it should be head of household. Sorry, ladies. And
Oh, wait, what? Household? Well, I don't think so.
right. And so it's gonna be more and more extreme because their response to us saying, hey, this is messed up is gonna be, well, fine, we'll just give you even more of it.
Yeah.
I think our challenge is not going to be stoking the anger. It's going to be trying to direct it, you
Mm,
know, because the hard part we're going to be in for is anger not properly directed can lead to all kinds of other calamities. It can lead to worse things,
yeah.
and so I think the people that are in power now are so incompetent and so corrupt and so full of themselves that when it starts to get bad, they're not like, I'll give you a real quick example and then we'll go is like, um, had a friend of mine, she said, "Hey, I just wanted to give you something you write about it." I said, "Okay." She's like, uh, husband has a great job, corporate job, best health insurance plan you can get. She's on it. Her copay for therapy went from $20 to $210 because of the ACA subsidies being canceled. All that's coming.
I
All
mean,
that is coming. And so bread in my area, grain, anything that made with grain, because I do all the shopping, in like 2 weeks went from like a loaf of bread was around $2 to it was 4.50 without a deal. Cereal, like a box of Cheerios that they were, the same one which was like 197 suddenly went without a coupon to 7.50.
$7.50 for Cheerios.
Cheerios, freaking Cheerios, for the giant size, right? 7.50. And again, it's like, oh, like, and you wonder, like, why did this happen? Probably AIs, said, oh yeah, it was like you should get this up. And then, you know, and in 2 weeks it might come back down and those like, oh, prices are dropping. It's like, but it's not that. It's you can't consistently rely on those prices because as you being a mom and having a household, and I'd function this way, is you have kind of your staples and then little treats here and there if they're on sale or whatever. How do you plan that? Especially if you're like, I've got $100 for a family of four and it's got to last for this week. And suddenly your total grocery bill is 20% higher.
Right. Yeah, and, that budget, it's week to week. People are paid week to week or every 2 weeks. Just
Yep.
be down next week doesn't mean that doesn't make a difference for this week. And I just it's and I'm gonna say this, and if you are if someone has ever been in a emotionally or physically abusive relationship, the hallmark of an abusive relationship is that the abuser is constantly moving the goalpost,
Yep.
is constantly moving what it is to be successful, to be acceptable, to be loved, to not be hurt.
Mhm.
And that is exactly what the Trump administration, the Trump regime does on every single level, whether that's in rhetoric, whether that's through tearing down the East Wing, through price manipulation, through ending the ACA health subsidies. It is all part of a larger orchestrated or just organic process to really beat down the American people to the point that they are no longer able to resist and fight back because they are so scared. And that every single time something like this happens, and people say, "Why did you do that? Why is this happening?" It's it's not about, oh, he wanted to punish us or this three-dimensional chess game going. No, he's an abuser, and this is what abusers
That's
do.
it. It's that simple. And I think that's going to be the challenge for us moving forward is just basically putting that out there is like, we're being abused by billionaires, by Trump, by these people that put them in power, but we don't have to be.
Yeah, we can leave through democracy.
Right.
Uh,
Again,
uh,
thank you so much. We'll definitely make this a regular thing. When I send it out, say in the comments if you want Larissa to be wine hungover every time we do this. It's probably going to be good for her health. You know,
I would do it for you. I would do it for the
no,
audience.
don't do that. Like this, like I would really feel guilty. It's like I gotta I gotta have dialysis now because of this show. All
Oh my God, you're hilarious. All right, Red, thank you.
right, thanks. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you again.
Okay.
Bye.